What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mafia Midway, your midweek therapy session talking Buffalo Bills and more. And man, once again, find ourselves needing some serious therapy after the Bills hired Joe Brady as head coach. We're going to get into that and a few other things if we have time. But joining us tonight, we have the Titans apologist, which you know as Tony. Tony's been on many of our shows. He used to actually host our golf show. And dude knows football. He used to play defensive end for Boise State.
Defensive tackle, Mike, but that's fine. Defensive line is also
like,
acceptable.
I see you now. I'm like, there's no way you could be like defensive tackle, dude. There's no way.
I know. Hey, like I've told you before, I have like two significant cutoffs in my life where I know, like, people know me from before and they see me now and they can't believe it.
Yeah.
People that know me now and then like see pictures of from me before and they're like, I can't believe that.
That's a different person.
Yeah, it's a totally different person. My
Your
wife
has
married me
told
when
you,
I was.
You're like, you're not the guy I married.
100%. I was 270 when we're married, and I'm like 200 right now. So
we gotta bring on those pictures at one point because I've seen it. I've seen the before and the after. Tony, you've also helped coach your dad. Your dad coach some top high school football, right?
Yep, brothers. My brother Mike was Idaho State High School Coach of the Year 2 years ago. My brother Tom is he just interviewed for a head coaching job at a prominent school here in San Diego County. So, yeah, football's kind of like our deal. We all played collegiately. So, you know, I'm hoping first honored to be on the show as always with you and Jake. Like, I'm always impressed. I love to pop into the chat and like put random things in there. But I'm excited to be here tonight and talk about this. It's something in our group chat with Rick and Chris, who, by the way, Rick, Chris, hello. I think it's a great topic, and you know, we're in this weird season in the NFL now where, you know, it's Super Bowl season. It's a dead week. There's a lot of coaches like hirings and things happening. So. I was like, Mike, I want to be on the show. I want to talk with you and Jake, but mostly listen to Jake because I love listening to Jake.
Yeah. Oh, Tony, you are making me blush, brother. The honor is all ours, first off. You know, so thank you for joining us tonight. I'm fired up. This is going to be great.
Yeah, Tony hears enough of me at work, so he's like, yeah, I hear Mike all the time. So also, Tony, he's like one of the top country flag football coaches. Took his daughter's team, took him from like a little – I don't know. How old are they?
Oh, I did know this.
They didn't even know how to play the game.
Yeah, so the girls' flag thing is like a big deal out here in California, and it's exploding all over the country. So I coached a girls' team, started 4th, 5th grade. I also coached middle school this last year. So I'm enjoying the whole flag experiment. Never coached girls before. Very different scenario than coaching boys, if anybody has not done one or the other. But it's a lot of fun, man. I love the game of football. So any like iteration or version of it that I can take part in or be, you know, involved with, it is something that I enjoy. And so I hope that passion spills over to the kids and they see how much I like it and they like it. And like I told the parents from the very beginning, my goal is to make the girls have fun so that they want to come back and play next year and the year after and the year after.
Yeah. And I've got to
then in the Olympics, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like I read an article, this Sports Illustrated article probably 2 years ago, and they projected that women's flag football at the collegiate level would be one of the highest in-demand scholarships for athletes like in 10 years. And so you think about it, like where that game is going, like it's exciting. It's fun to watch. The girls are super aggressive and raw. And so the where that can go, I think is amazing. And, you know, as a dad of 2 girls, it's exciting to look at opportunities where I can watch them play into college. And to your point, Jake, into the Olympics and maybe someday professionally.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. I want to say hi to everyone in the chat. Please drop a nickel on that subscribe if you're new to the channel. Greatly helps us. And at least smash that like button for us. So let's get into it. Jake, less than 24 hours after our show Monday night. Less than 24 hours. Didn't even give our show a chance to breathe. We went through all 9 candidates, all 9 of them. Joe Brady obviously was the first candidate the Bills had interviewed. He was not on our top 3. Our top 3 was Clint Kubiak, which meant they would have to wait till after the Super Bowl. We had Udinsky, offensive coordinator from the Jags. And then we had Dable. And Dable was more for the reason why I think they hired Brady. But Josh, Jake. Shocked, right? We shocked that that morning you heard the news.
Never in my right mind did I expect it to be Joe Brady. Mike, in fact, I think I pointed it out in the show. If there was any candidate I did not want the Bills to hire, it would have been Joe Brady. And yeah, I'll be honest with you. I had to take a deep breath. It was, I mean, we were right on. We said by Wednesday they would have a decision made, and they sure did. They didn't waste any time. So, you know, you have to think, was this the plan all along? Was everything else just fluff? Like, they interviewed a ton of different candidates, right? But were any of those even serious? Were they interviewing those candidates in the thought that Brady was going to be head coach all along, and maybe these were potential OC or DC candidates? You don't know. You know, obviously it sounds like we made some traction with the defensive coordinator position, bringing in Jim Leonard potentially as a candidate. I think we're going to interview him, and then hopefully Jim Schwartz. We'll see what happens. But, you know, on the offensive side, haven't heard a whole lot, but we do know that Joe Brady will be calling plays as well. Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's where I kind of stand with it. You know, I was a little upset at first. I think I felt the same that probably 95% of Bills Mafia felt, just kind of like disgusted, confused. Why do we go this route? You know, you say you want change, but then you hire from within. You have a chance to start fresh and get rid of all the skeletons in our closet. And we decide to promote the guy that we were a little frustrated with throughout the year. You know, I think Brady did a lot of great things here offensively. Obviously, Josh Allen wins an MVP. James Cook wins a rushing title. Very balanced approach to the offense. Super efficient. I mean, if you look at Josh's stats too, his rating's gone up just about every year with Brady. And, you know, I think the issue is the eye test. You know, you have these big moments, specifically on third down for whatever reason. And it's a matter of, you know, we run plays that work over and over and over again, and then it gets to a crucial situation and we try to get too cute, or we do something so obvious that the defense knows. And by the way, it was pointed out on national television how obvious we were on first down and running the football. So there were things that made us as a fan base just like think, what the hell are we doing here? If everyone knows what we're doing, you know, the commentators are saying the same thing. Like, there's got to be some changes. So, you know, in that sense, that's why I think a lot of us are angry. Now, on the other side of it, we have to give it a chance. We got to see this play out. He doesn't have a head coach kind of maybe putting handcuffs on him. He doesn't have Aaron Kromer supposedly calling the run plays now. So this is all on Brady. So maybe it's a different iteration of his offense. I don't know, but time will tell. I don't think we can complain. We can complain a little bit, but I think we have to hold our breath now until the regular season actually starts. I know it's going to be a long time till that comes, but we got to give it a chance. Let's see who he brings in as the OC and DC and, you know, all that other stuff. Let's see what his staff looks like, but you have to give it a chance. And that's about it.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm going to throw it to you, Tony, in a second, because I got a couple of questions. But Jake, you brought up a good point. There's been a divide in the community here on the podcasting, all Bills podcasters. Some of them think that McDermott filtered Brady's offense, said, hey, I want you to run this type of offense. I personally have a hard time believing that's the case. That a defensive-minded coach would say such a thing. They were saying things like, well, he wanted his defense to not be on the field as much and wanted them to kind of run the ball 10, 12 plays. It worked. I mean, again, we averaged nearly 30 points a game, but we'll find out. We're going to find out who was right in that case, because now it's all on Brady. But Tony, over to you real quick. First of all, what do you think of the fire of McDermott to start with?
Yeah, well, I think Jake hit it on the head. As somebody who's not, you know, a diehard Bills fan, but obviously my association with you guys root for the Bills, you know, want to see them do well. I think from the outside looking in, the perspective was there was something missing in Buffalo, right? You've got this all-world quarterback. You finally got him a running back who wins a rushing title. The offensive line was relatively good this year for the first time in a couple of years. And McDermott was responsible for calling the defense. They added some personnel, like some guys in some spots in the offseason. And the season kind of had its moments where they looked great, especially early on. And like a lot of teams dealing with injuries, it's tough to overcome that. But it just felt like there was something missing in the culture and the way that the direction that the team was going. It just never felt like they could get things clicking. Like not everybody was singing from the same song sheet. And so, I had made the joke that it felt like this year in his tenure that it's Super Bowl or bust. You need to make the Super Bowl, especially because there's no Joe Burrow, there's no Lamar, there's no Patrick Mahomes. Like, this has been laid down for you to kind of make a run at the AFC title and get yourself back into the Super Bowl. And so to come up short that way, again, against a very, very good football team in the Denver Broncos, it felt like somebody had to fall on the sword. And so it had to be him, right? So the issue that I think that this brings up, right, the hiring from within, is typically you do that when your coach leaves for another job. Like when I played football in college, and 2 times I went through it where my head coach left and went to another place, and we promoted from within because we felt the culture was good, the direction was good, everything was there, the guts or roots of what we were trying to do was moving in the right direction. That's a natural time where you promote from within. If you're looking for cultural change because you have questions about the direction of the team, and you fire the head coach and then you promote from within, it sends very mixed signals to your fan base, to your people. And to me, like, when I look at it, what it actually does is it puts a lot more pressure on Allen, because this was his position coach for a couple of years before he was the OC. So it feels like they're like, all right, we're going to put everything around him, and this is his team now. So if the team underachieves, whatever the case may be, it feels like now the responsibility doesn't fall on the head coach. It doesn't fall on the GM or president of football operations, whatever his title now. This squarely puts the responsibility for winning football games in Allen's lap. And that's the part of it that I'm like, I don't understand the hire, especially with the candidate pool that was out there and the desirability from many people that were available to work with Allen week in and week out. So it felt like a really weird move given all of those circumstances, right? Who was available, the timing of the fire. I mean, he was basically fired on the plane flying back to Buffalo after the game. So again, for them to pull the trigger so quickly on an internal hire, what that tells me is they believe they have the right guy. The culture and personnel are moving in the right direction, and they just needed to make a change from a leadership perspective. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with all those things.
Yeah, Jake. What do you think about what Tony says? There's some good points, Tony. I want to know what you thought. I'll throw it to you, Jake, but I also want to get your thoughts on the fact that they kept Bean. A lot of what happened with the Bills, you guys have been saying it. You, our friends in the group chat, we don't have weapons around Allen. You got to put some of that on Bean. But again, there's a dispute, a divide in the podcasting world that it was the coaches dictating the Bean who they wanted. And I mean, to promote Bean, Jake, first of all, let me throw it to you there, and then I'll get Tony's thoughts on that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I think Tony hitting the nail on the head there. That's why I think we're all perplexed. But maybe it is a different voice. Unfortunately for us, we have an image that was constructed, and the way that things seem to be handled, it just seemed like a knee-jerk reaction to, first off, fire Sean McDermott. And the second problem was this was like the worst timing to fire him, because I felt like out of all the years of him coaching, this was one of the more brilliant years he's had, because he did so much more with less, especially with the defense. And I know the defense let up 33 points, and, it looks bad. Again, you can't just take it as like what you see on paper as like the be all end all, because if you actually watch the games, I mean, what we were doing with such a banged up secondary and how we were able to make adjustments in the second half, something that I feel like we've struggled with in the past. It was really, really impressive. Our second half defense this year, especially, was incredible. But the problem was McDermott really should have been fired after the 13-second game. And I think, I think doing it right now really threw people off, because you weren't really expecting it. And with the head coaching pool as thin as it was, just a tough time to do it. So that's where I'm at with that too.
Yeah, Tony, your thoughts?
Yeah,
on
I mean,
that?
I would say this. I think there was enough steam around McDermott not being the coach. I remember last year the loss to the Chiefs, and it was like McDermott's got to go. He's got to go. So to your point, there was a movement internally from Bills Mafia, like, hey, we need to make a change. This guy has the best quarterback in football, and he's now got a great running back, and we need to make a change because we need somebody else who's gonna make a charge, right? And this is also at a time and period where we're seeing these new coaching guys take over teams and become, I wouldn't say instantly successful. It's not the Mike Vrabel thing in New England, but having success very, very quickly. So, during McDermott's tenure, they've been a very good football team. They've won multiple AFC East championships, but it always felt like they were underachieving. And the main reason that people could point to is because, he's got to play Mahomes. He's got to play Lamar. He's got to play Joe Burrow. You take all of those guys out of the equation this year, and it's like it quickly becomes Super Bowl or bust, whether that's an internal narrative or a narrative from, people in the larger NFL community. So to come up short, I think that's why but it doesn't really answer the question why you would promote from within, given all those things, right? So again, if you're going to make a wholesale change, like taking what is a fairly successful head coach that's won multiple league championships, conference championships, whatever you want to say, replacing him with a guy that was already on the staff, it feels so weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I don't know. Like I said, I'm as a outside observer, I'm willing to give this guy his chance, and he may be an amazing coach. He comes from the Sean Payton coaching tree. He was with Burrow when he was at his time at LSU. He coached CMC when he was in Carolina. So he's been around. He's been around great players, dynamic talents on teams where the focal point is those guys. So I think you have to give him an opportunity. To Jake's piece, it doesn't feel like the move that's right, given what you did in firing your head coach, promoting within. And so you're left with this very weird, empty feeling. Like, why did we do what we do?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. With that being said, I've heard the other side of it too, where McDermott wanted a more traditional approach where everything kind of filters through the head coach. And there could have been a real power struggle there, to the point where he was controlling his coaches so much that they didn't have a voice. So now you bring in Brady as your head coach. He's actually able to use his voice, put his own spin on things, and maybe it's a more healthy environment for the players. I know a lot of the players loved McDermott. There were a few out there like Jerry Hughes that basically called him a clown show because of the 13-second game and not really taking the accountability after that game. And again, I think the time to fire him was probably after that game and not now. I think the problem is you wait so long, and then it's like, okay, this is the norm now. And after a year where he did so much more with less, it just felt weird. And then you promote from within, and people are just confused. But now hearing some of these stories, especially like this Tyler Dunn, who went on Jim Rome and kind of outlined everything, he's got some inside sources in the building. I know he's talked with a lot of people in the organization, and he's gone on to basically say that the proverbial wall, obviously was the fact of the matter. Him and Josh had a very professional relationship. But at the end of the day, the philosophy in which the organization was taking, they wanted to build more around Josh and do things to cater towards Josh, whereas McDermott wanted to do things more his way. And that could have been catering towards Josh in his own right, but I just felt like that was a main issue there. But again, this doesn't excuse Bean, because this dude's back is up against the wall, and what he has done on days 1 and even days 2 of the draft has not been like all world by any means. Now, he has been really good picking on day 3. Your boy Khalil Shakir being one of those guys, Tone, right? Yeah. But this dude's got to make some serious moves, and he's got to do something this offseason because, he is on the hottest seat of them all, I feel like.
Yeah, well, I think you brought up a great point. Like, the scenario where an internal move like this makes sense is when there's a divide within the coaching staff or between your star player, the quarterback, and the head coach. And the organization wants to make a clear stand that we're going to pick one side or the other, right? And the hard part for me in this is that typically when there's that deep of a rift within an organization, a coaching staff, or between a star player and a head coach, there's always smoke. Like you hear things come out. Players who leave the organization talk about that level of disconnect or discontinuity within the coaching staff. And, again, as an outside observer, I never really felt like that was what was coming out of Buffalo's camp. It felt like they were all on board for McDermott. They were behind him. They believed in what he was doing. So they either did a really, really good job of working through that and covering it up, or it didn't exist. So if it's a likely scenario where, to your point, Josh and McDermott didn't have the best of relationship, and Brady's his guy, and the organization's like, look, we're doubling down on our commitment with Josh. Like, we're going to go all in. We need to make a change. I guess in that scenario, the move kind of makes sense. But or even if there's a disconnect between Brady and McDermott, and you're like, Brady's our guy of the future, we need to push our chips all in here. That's where I could see some of this making sense. But again, typically when that happens, it's really hard to keep that level of like discord like silent. It's tough to keep your arms around that narrative gets out. I mean, even in places like Pittsburgh, like when Tomlin had problems with players or coaches, like you'd hear about that stuff. So to think that they could keep it that tightly wrapped in this day and age is really hard for me to believe. But that is the scenario where I think this kind of would make sense. If Josh is like, I'm done, I can't play for him anymore, Joe's my guy, I'm all in with Joe, but I don't know how much longer I can do this with Sean, then I could see that making that change. Or organizationally, if Beane's like, hey, Brady's our guy of the future, and we're not getting anywhere with Sean, and we're going to lose Brady if we don't make a decision to invest in him. So if those are one of the two scenarios, I could see that happening. It's just where there's usually smoke, there's fire, and I never saw any smoke.
Yeah. Good point, Tony, because I'm with you. Look, it is the least disruptive move, hiring Brady, right? We're gonna roll it back pretty much, unless you had filters on him that were put on him by McDermott. I agree with you 100%, Tony. If there was these issues that you've mentioned, Jake, we would have heard more of it. We would have. And so either people respect him enough that they're not going to say anything, and that just tells me they just had a good relationship. But that would have come out. Steph Diggs would have probably said something. There would have been people other than Jerry Hughes. I mean, that's just another story. That's one person. But I'm with you on that one, Tony. I just want to say one thing. There's only been 4 times in the history of the NFL that a new head coach has been promoted within, and they went to the Super Bowl the first year. And that was with George Seifert, who was handed a Super Bowl winning team and just, won the Super Bowl the next year back to back. And that also included Bill Callahan, who was in that crazy year where Gruden was traded to the Buccaneers after the Raiders had come off a good season. They were beat by that tuck rule by the Patriots that year. And so you got 2 teams that were really, really good. By the way, 4 times only 2-2. 2 losses, 2 wins in the Super Bowl. So again, I don't like the odds. I don't like the odds based on the data that I'm seeing here. Only 4 times. And again, Jake, I don't know what you're hearing or who the source is. You mentioned the source. I don't know the guy at all.
Tyler Dunn is his name. And
Tyler Dunn.
it kind of does piss me off a little bit because everyone claims to be an insider this day and age. I don't even really know the background on Tyler Dunn. He seems credible. He's been on some big name shows and everything. I don't even know how he really has this information, to be honest. I haven't done a ton of research on the guy, but I've listened to a few of his segments, and he's very well written, well spoken and everything like that. But he had some very interesting takes on all of it. And it definitely sounds like, from the outside, you would never expect what was, I guess, happening on the inside. And I think McDermott was very respected by his players, and his players played hard for him. There's no doubt. Especially his defensive guys. And, it sounds to me like they've maybe been wanting to make a change for a long time, and they just had to find a reason to do so, which is crazy to say, because isn't the reason losing over and over and over and over and over again in the playoffs?
Yeah. My take is this, though. Like, if there was a side that you were choosing, so let's say there's some authenticity to what the report that Dunn put out there, right? Like that there was a disconnect between Allen and between McDermott. And so the organization said, we're going to go all in with Allen. The point that I made earlier, it even makes that more so. Like, it intensifies the fact that this all squarely falls on Josh now. Like, if he doesn't go out and win an MVP and win a Super Bowl, like all of that pressure gets displaced to him. And we've seen this happen before in organizations. You know, Aaron Rodgers is an example of this, his time in Green Bay and when it ended and everything that happened there. It just, when you become so big that you basically take all the oxygen out of the room for your team, you become an avatar for your team. The Bills are Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the Bills, right? That level of responsibility now, like, it all falls on you. You can go out and score 30 points, but if your defense can't stop anybody and they score 35 and you lose games that way, it's still your fault. Like, and so good or bad, whether or not any of this is true, all of that pressure that was on McDermott, because they're like, you have Josh Allen, you should be competing for Super Bowls every year. It's now on Josh Allen. Brady gets a pass. Like, he's going to get a pass for a couple of years. And if he was a terrible hire, Bean will bear responsibility for that. But this now squarely becomes Allen's responsibility for him to carry you guys to a Super Bowl. And if he doesn't, it could go very, very sour very quickly.
Yeah. I think the problem, too, is, like, you look at this Broncos game, how much of a fault do you really put on McDermott for that? Like, if it's anyone's fault, you got to put it on 17, right? Like, and he was accountable in the press conference. He was accountable. He said, I let my teammates down. I feel like I mean, the dude was crying. Like, he knows he didn't play his best game, yet he did still will them back to nearly having a victory in that game. The problem is the ball in your hands, missing the open Knox play and the fumble before halftime, and just a lot of things there, man. Like, and that's the problem. Like, us in Buffalo love this man. I would walk in traffic for this guy. I defend his honor all the time, and I say he's the GOAT because I feel like he can be. Like, this dude is a unicorn. There's never been a quarterback like him. There's been, I guess, like him, but they can't do physically everything that he does in one. Like, Cam Newton, same body size, everything like that, good arm, all that good stuff. But Allen's got a little bit even more to it. Like, this dude hurdles guys. Like, what other quarterback's ever done that? I mean, Randall Cunningham, like, flipped over a guy. Mike Vick flipped over a guy. What man that's 240 pounds, just a farm boy out there playing ball, hurdles people and then runs through people like he's a running back? No one does that.
Yeah.
His arm talent's insane. He makes throws that are just like, every game I say, wow, how did that just happen? So that's the issue. That's my problem. Like, I truly feel like he's the greatest because of that. But from the outside looking in, it just looks like in the most clutch moments, this guy can't get it done and he can't get over the hump. And until he does so, he's never going to earn that respect from everyone else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to a lesser extent, you've been hearing now the same kinds of things said about Herbert in San Diego for a couple of years, right? That it's like the guy can make every throw. He runs like a deer.
Talent.
Yeah. I mean, again, I put him and Josh, to your point, in a separate category physically from the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, Lamar's great, but Lamar doesn't have the arm talent that those two guys do. Mahomes is unbelievable, right? He's on his own plane, but he doesn't have the physical gifts that those guys do, right? So they're kind of, to your point, they're on a tier by themselves because they really don't have any other parallels where you can look at other quarterbacks historically or in the league today and be like, they're like that guy. But they both kind of have that same stink to them where it's like in big situations, especially when the games mean the most in the playoffs, they haven't delivered, right? And so up until this year, you know, the reason Josh hasn't delivered is because of Patrick Mahomes or because of, you know, Joe Burrow. Like, there's another guy on the other side, and so he's been given a pass. So when you remove those guys from the equation this year, to your point, the mistakes, which had always been there, they become much brighter because it's like, hey, wait a second, you're not doing this against the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs. You're doing this against Bo Nix and the Broncos, right? You're missing wide open throws in the most important scenarios. So again, I don't want to beat this point to death, but it's going to continue to make that spotlight that was already on him even brighter. And what I would hate to see is what's happened in Philadelphia with the Eagles, where like Eagles fans are like, the team sucks. We should fire. They won a Super Bowl last year. And that the fan base is ready to get rid of Hurts, fire the coach, start over.
Insane.
But it's like that can happen. That can happen very, very quickly. So, with the decision and what they did, like, I think it only intensifies that timeline for adding all of this pressure to Josh. And again, he had a very good offensive line, one of the healthiest and best blocking offensive lines in the NFL this year. And he had the best running back statistically in terms of yards gained in the NFL. Like Cook had a career year, so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, he still needs a number one, right? We still got to go get him a number one, and that's potentially what's missing. So to your point, if Bean goes out in the offseason and drafts a number one, or they make a big trade, or they pick up a big name free agent and bring that in, if they don't have success, there's going to be a lot of criticism lobbed in Josh's lap from week one until they make the Super Bowl.
I agree. Yeah.
Tony, if they make that type of move and they are successful with it, I'm going to be on the other side saying, well, 100%. McDermott would have won with this team. Yeah. You get Josh a top wide receiver. You finally get that closer on defense. McDermott would have been successful. So we'll see. I agree 100%. With what you're saying there. I want to say hi to some of the folks out there. We don't mean to be ignoring you. Usually we pull up your chats. I just want you to know we're kind of crunched for time with Tony today. Both he and I are out at 8. But actually, it depends where you are, what time zone you're in. But
8 West
p.m.
Coast.
Pacific, yeah.
11 p.m. East Coast.
We got a couple folks out there. I haven't seen this person before. Buff New York 6632. Bean is going to waste our Super Bowl chance. He don't bring in enough right players. Yep, we just kind of talked about that. Yep. And if he does, finally, well, where was that with McDermott? Where was it? He follows up with Bean's draft sucks. Weston, thanks for joining us tonight. Draft is critical for Bean, no question. And let's see here, Jim Swartz. So let's talk about that. That news has come out. Like, who's going to be the DC? Because that's another area of change that people want to see. I did feel McDermott with the talent, with the injuries. We always seem to make stops when we needed to. And I know you're saying, look, the Broncos put up 33 on us. Well, they would have put up 33 on the Patriots. I have no doubt if Bo Nix was playing, and if that weather, that second half, nobody could do anything. It was insane. Whoever had the lead once that weather hits was going to win that game, no matter what. So crazy stuff. But Jim Schwartz, what do you think about that, Jake?
Love. I mean, we saw what he did here in Buffalo the last time, and was very upset that Rex Ryan didn't elect to keep him as his DC. But they have a difference in philosophy. Ryan's a 3-4 guy. Schwartz is more a 4-3 guy. So obviously that it just wasn't going to work out. I didn't think either one wanted to conform to one another's scheme. So we have a chance to bring him back. And I say that, I know he's still technically under contract. I think John Robert had mentioned that. But he more or less told the Browns he's frustrated. Visibly, Shefty reported this, saying that Schwartz was very verbally frustrated, basically telling people he's out because they hired Todd Monken as their head coach, as if the Browns couldn't piss off any more people.
Man. At least they have a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. Amen, brother. No notes. Yeah. So, I would love to have Jim Schwartz here back in Buffalo. You talk about one of the things that we really are missing defensively, Mike, and we've been trying to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, outside of Leonard Floyd, we haven't had a guy register more than 10 sacks since, I think, Lorenzo Alexander. This is back in 2016. I mean, and Floyd, I mean, he did those sacks in the first half of the year after December 2nd or whatever. He didn't even have a sack.
Yeah.
So, and he was gone he was a 1-year wonder with us, and he was gone. So,
well, the other thing I'd mention there was Schwartz, right? Like he's a tenured coach. He's coached, 5 or 6 different teams as the defensive coordinator. He's been a head guy. So if you're going with a young guy in Brady as your head coach, you kind of need like that old school, very established presence. And a guy like him gives you that in a position of need where you need significant change, right, as an organization. So if they're able to pull it off, like, and that comes through, like that feels, I think everyone would check the box and be like, that's the right hire, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah. And for me, it's really between him or the other Jim Leonard, former Buffalo Bill, one of my drought era gods who had 2 stints here in Buffalo. Let me talk to you about this guy. I'm gonna prop him up a little bit because I feel like I have to. Jimmy Leonhard should have been hired as the head coach at Wisconsin. I think he got totally screwed over there. He was the last time. I mean, him being the interim coach there at Wisconsin was really the last time Wisconsin was relevant. And I know the college game is obviously different than the NFL game, but what he did there was extremely impressive to me, leading young men. So you love seeing previous head coaching experience at a high level. Check. Next, the last 2 years he's spent in Denver. And, we saw how good that defense was front hand the last 2 years.
Yeah.
To me, it also would be a scheme change for us, which could be for the best. Obviously, we may have to make some moves. Does Ed Oliver even fit in a 3-4? Probably not, because that's what Jim Leonhard runs. Our linebackers, I don't know if anyone on our roster right now is a 3-4 linebacker. I mean, Shaq Thompson could maybe play in the middle, but outside of that, you don't have edge guys. You don't have any of that. Do you convert Greg Rousseau to an edge outside linebacker? Like, could he do it? He's athletic, maybe. I know Joey Bosa did a little bit of that back in L.A. with the Chargers, but are we going to even keep Bosa after this year? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it would maybe be a refresher in that sense. I think a more natural switchover would probably be Schwartz because he still runs a 4-3. He's a little more aggressive. And for whatever reason, man, this dude just knows how to coach up all-time sack leaders. We saw, obviously, Myles Garrett this year break the record. The last time he was here in Buffalo, we had 3 guys with 10 or more sacks. It was a really good defensive line. But, I think this man just knows how to get it done. And it's been a key element that we've been missing.
Yeah, well, I do think this as well, too. When you grab a guy who is an offensive coordinator, promote them to being your head coach, and then he's like, I'm going to continue to call plays, right? So what that signals is my involvement on the defensive side of the ball, that I'm going to be the head coach and the offense. And so I need someone who can have the same level of influence, oversight, and then personnel decision capabilities on the defensive side of the football. So that would make me lean more Schwartz because he's been a head coach. To your point, he understands how to put pieces in places to maximize what his defense asks that position to do. So you have to be willing to do that organizationally to bring in a guy and basically split the team in half. And one guy's going to run the offense, one guy's going to run the defense. Clearly, Brady's still the head coach and is going to steer the ship and make the big decisions. But there's a certain level of hands-off that kind of head coach brings. And the only reason I know that is from experience. A guy named Dirk Cutter that coached me at Boise State. And then he went on to coach at Arizona State, and he coached in the NFL for a number of years in Atlanta. He was an offensive guy, and so
Buccaneers too.
The Buccaneers, exactly. Two-time head coaching guy.
Coach.
He was a great head coach, but he was also clearly an offensive coach, and so defensive coordinators on his staff had to have the ability to have the same level of respect, control, and influence of what was happening, not only from a game plan perspective, but personnel and situational play calling. So you need a guy like that to step in and be your DC. And there's some good options out there, and I think these two guys are probably the two best candidates for the position. Whether or not Buffalo's going to be able to pull the trigger on either one of them, I don't know. But it's going to be, in my mind, a guy like that that has to come in to support a young head coach who's never had an opportunity like this before.
Yeah, I love it. I have a question for you, Tony, because obviously, you honestly have more experience than both Mike and myself in this area. As far as like a head coach goes, with what you look at him in your playing days, your coaching experience, all that stuff, do you think a great head coach is more of like a CEO and a guy that is more hands-off and just lets his coaches coach? Or do you like a coach that calls his own plays, that, handles the offense or the defense? Do you have a preference on that? Do you think one is better than the other? I would just like to hear your take on that.
So I can answer it this way. From a preference perspective, I in my opinion, I think that either scenario can work, but I would prefer a guy who is very good at identifying extremely strong candidates within the organization to run player groups, to run the defense, to do those kinds of things. A head coach that understands his limitations as a person and what he can actually influence and control, and brings in good people that he trusts, that are accountable, that provide him with the visibility to make sure things are moving correctly. That's an earmark of a great head coach to me. Without all of that being said, you look at a guy like Bill Belichick, who was involved in every aspect of the football team, from the music that was played on game day to the offensive and defensive play calling, the personnel moves. Some guys have to be in control of everything, right? Like that's just their personality. They want to know what color you're going to paint the bathroom in the locker rooms, and they want to sign off on that. In my experience, as a player, I enjoyed coaches who built a good culture and let that accountability and authority kind of permeate. There was no question who was in charge, but I liked the aspect of a coach having a good coaching staff. And if you look organizationally, I don't care what it is, a football team, a great company, a really functional volunteer group, there's ownership at every level of the organization, right? It's not one person at the top dictating everything, what everybody does. It's this clear vision that everybody believes in what's happening. They all buy into the message and the direction and the way that things are moving, but there's a certain level of ownership that they all have in moving the goal forward. So that is my preference in a head coach, but I will say there's been many, many examples, and I think Belichick is the exact personification of it, where guys have had success by being the absolute micromanagers of everything that they do, right? So it can work both ways. Andy Reid is obviously an offensive coach, and he lets his staff, run things, and he's the head coach and makes some decision. He has some influence over obviously play calling that's being done. But I, as a player, and where I think you have more success or more sustained success, is when you allow that level of authority and accountability to kind of permeate through the organization.
I like it.
I like it too. And I agree with you guys on Jim Schwartz. Let's get that combination of the young head coach with that guy who's got some experience. Tony, I have to ask you this. Should have asked you earlier. So Josh Allen was apparently part of this process in making this decision. And first, I want to get your thoughts on what you think about that in general. That'd be like you going and interviewing your boss, right? It'd be like me, same thing. Get your thoughts on that. And do you feel like I feel like they're friends? They've been together. He was the QB coach, OC. I don't know if he's going to hold Josh accountable enough, but what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it clearly signals kind of what I was talking about earlier, in that this was a decision that the organization was going to go all in on Josh, even more so than they've already done into this point, right? So if there was any kind of divide between what McDermott wanted and Josh Allen, it's clear that they were going to go with Josh. So if they involved him in this process and wanted to get his input, it's not surprising that he would pick a guy potentially who was his position coach, who he had a great working relationship, maybe even had some influence when they made the change from Dorsey to Brady, to be like, hey, I think we should be doing it this way. Like, again, there's involving him in this process clearly says this is Josh's team, and we're going to do everything we can to support what Josh wants to get done. So do I agree with it? Do I like it? Here's what I would say. If you believe that Josh is the difference maker in your team and that you need to do everything that you can to build something around him, and there's a timeline to that, and you believe that timeline is getting shorter and shorter, that you're just going to go all in, right? You've got to make the determination to go all in. So from that perspective, it puts all your chips in his basket, but it also makes him understand, like, dude, we're going to move heaven and earth for you because we believe in you, right? So that's a clear signal that they sent in involving him in this process. And if they were like, hey, we're thinking about making a change with Sean, how do you feel about that? And if he said, if you're going to make a change, I think it should be Joe, then again, I think that clearly shows you who's calling things in Buffalo. Again, and I'm not trying to paint Josh as like a a villain in the scenario, but it's obvious that he's got more influence over what's happening organizationally in the direction of that team than probably 90% of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, well said, Tony. I mean, that's a great point. If they're going all in, I could see it. It makes sense to me.
I love my boy Wes Brewster calling out the Dan Hawkins there.
Dan
yes,
Hawkins.
I played for Hawk and Boise. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Was that who was
Old school
coach back
reference
when
right
you were
there.
playing?
He went to
What'd you say?
Colorado after that, right?
Yeah, he was at Colorado.
Yeah.
I think his son Cody's now the head coach at UC Davis,
Yes.
and I think Hawk's there with him.
Yeah. You might be right on that. Yeah.
I think it's Davis. I might have that wrong.
John
about
Roberts asking if Jim Schwartz coached with Joe Brady in New Orleans. Anyone know
Ooh,
that?
that's a good call. That's right. They were both in New Orleans. I know that Brady was there under Peyton. Was Schwartz there with Peyton?
So we're talking 2017. I don't think Jim Schwartz was with the Saints, was he? I don't think he was ever with the Saints. Brady was there in 2017.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing, too. So it did come out. It was reported that the Broncos were interested in making Brady their OC.
Yeah,
so
that's not surprising.
The Bills, and then they had already seen, obviously, he had interviewed with the Ravens. He'd interviewed twice with the Raiders as well. So, I think the Bills also felt like, hey, we want to keep this guy. I actually saw a really good tweet of someone post, and it was in reference to the Brady situation, how it kind of parallels to the Falcons back in 2016. So they have Dan Quinn as their head coach. You have Kyle Shanahan as your OC, this young up-and-coming OC. They go to the Super Bowl. They're up 28-3, infamously lose that game to the Patriots. And who does everyone blame for that game? Kyle Shanahan. And what do? They let him walk, and he goes to the 49ers, and he's been to 2 Super Bowls since. Obviously, he's not gotten a victory yet. He's been close. But basically just said, hey, we don't want that to be the Buffalo Bills. And I know you're rolling the dice a little bit. You're saying that he's going to be kind of in that same realm as like the next Kyle Shanahan. But when you have Josh Allen, I think it automatically does make you a 10-win team. Like, yeah,
I mean, I agree with you. I think if they felt like he was the level of Shanahan, and it's like this might be too early or the circumstance might seem weird, that's another reason why this kind of would potentially make sense, right?
Yeah.
But it just, if you're going to fire your head coach, that's a clear signal that you're looking for a complete 180 culture, direction. And so to promote from within, even if it's a guy that is potentially the next, Kyle Shanahan, it feels really odd. It just doesn't have that like, hey, I'm glad we got rid of McDermott and made this move. It just feels like, what did we really get rid of McDermott for then? Like, why did he have to go if we were just going to promote from within? Like, what's the reason behind it? So it's odd, it's weird, but it is what it is. I will say this: you mentioned Shanahan, and it popped in my head. I was thinking about this earlier. Dude should be coach of the year. Like, he's probably not going to win it. Like, Vrabel's probably going to win coach of the year because of what the Patriots have done. But if you think about Shanahan, toughest division in football, probably the most decimated roster all year. Yeah. And the dude was in week 18 competing for the 1 seed in the playoffs and got his team all the way to the divisional round. I mean, that dude, again, I don't want to cuss, but the dude made chicken salad out of chicken crap. I mean, it was unbelievable what he did in San Francisco. I just throw it out there.
Yeah, he definitely did. It was definitely, you talk about brilliant head coaching jobs. It may have been his best, even though he's been to 2 Super Bowls. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, what he did this year in San Francisco against McVay and Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald, again, another guy that should probably win coach of the year. He's probably not going to because Vrabel's going to win it. But again, in the best division with arguably the best coaches, he was able to fight for the 1 seed in the NFC until week 18 of the year with the most decimated roster in football. So that
is incredible.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Hey, shout out to your boy Fred Warner too, by the way, another guy that you coached, right? Is that right, Tone?
Yeah. He played at Mission Hills High School where my brother's been for the last 10 years. So I would help out there. Great kid, unbelievable player. I mean, one of a kid that would literally, I say kid because, I was around him when he was 16, 17 years old. Obviously, he's a full-grown man now, but would literally die for football. Like, that's how dedicated he is to it.
That fires me up. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Brett here. He is definitely not happy about the McDermott being let go, especially since Bean was kept and promoted. But is there anyone expressed interest in McDermott yet? Has there been any calls?
Apparently Tampa Bay did, but it sounds like he's going to take a year off of football. His daughter is a senior. I think she's going to be going to Notre Dame, and then his son is also a senior in high school. So wants to take a year off, probably spend some time with the family. Now, if it's here in Buffalo, I think his son is playing at Orchard Park High School. So it sounds like he might be staying right here in Buffalo. That'll be very interesting. I mean, you imagine just seeing McDermott out at the grocery store in public, like, hey, what's up, coach?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if anybody makes out in this scenario, and again, makes out is, you can say what you want about it, but like, it basically exonerates McDermott, where last year people were calling for his head. And even during this year, it's like, if he doesn't do it, we're going to cut him loose. The promotion of Bean and the hiring from within and them getting rid of McDermott, he looks like the guy that got screwed in the scenario. So he walks out of this, like, basically smelling like roses. And to your point, like, I think if he takes a year off, like some time away from it, people will be like, look what he did in Buffalo. The guy had multiple 10, 12 win seasons. Like, he went to the, he went to the divisional round. He's been to the AFC championship. Like, he's going to come out of this probably better than anybody else after a year off.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? I'll be real with you. I was devastated when I heard the news. First off, I didn't expect it. Second off, I mean, this is the best 9 years of my life watching Buffalo Bills football. I know Josh Allen's a huge reason, but the guy that got it started, he did the improbable, the most improbable thing. His first year as a head coach takes this team out of a 17-year playoff drought, and I'll always remember him for that. Like that, man, I got so drunk that night. That was New Year's Eve, too, so it was just a really bad combo. But, Tone, let me tell you, when Tyler Boyd took that to the house against the Ravens and propelled us into the playoffs, I ran a whole lap around my brother-in-law's neighborhood. He's in a cul-de-sac there. It's snowing. It's probably -3. I got nothing but a T-shirt on and socks, and I'm running around. And I just did Snow Angels. And it was the most incredible feeling. And I will always have McDermott to thank for that. Like, great leader of men. He really is. Say what you want about him. But, man, I have nothing but respect. And I really, really appreciate his time here. If he ever hears this, I just want him to know how much I love him, because I really do.
I think that, like, first, the story is great. Picturing you in nothing but socks and a T-shirt is a little scary, but
yeah, definitely,
especially when it's snowing outside. But I will say this, like, I really do think, like, he's going to end up being the winner of this, because people are going to look at his time, look at things like that objectively now, and it's not going to be like they fired him and brought in, again, I'm throwing on it, like, they brought in what's his name from Seattle, and they're like, okay, he's going to be our new head coach, and everybody in Buffalo is going, yes, this is it, this is great, we finally got rid of McDermott, we got somebody who can take us to the next thing. Because of everything else that's happened, he's the guy that's going to get the freest of passes. Like, and people are going to remember the positives and be like, man, we should have never let McDermott go. Man, McDermott really was a good coach. Like, he's going to come out of this smelling like roses.
Right. Yeah. Look at Brett too. What a breakdown.
I'm going to be that guy, Tony. I mean, if they're not successful this year, and again, like you said, he's probably going to get 2 years, but not successful, man. I'm going to be that guy saying, you made the wrong choice.
Why did we do what we do? Why did we choose to do that?
Exactly. And now we'll know, was it really McDermott putting a filter on Brady's offense? If he still runs that stupid screenplay all the time, 3rd and 8,
bubble screen,
and when everyone knows it's coming, I'm just going to lose it. So, look, we got to wrap this up, Tony. Final question to you.
Love it, Chad.
I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. You and I got to get out of here. Are you betting the over or the under on the Bills wins this year? Probably they're always going to be around 11, probably. And if you're saying they're the Super Bowl, you're saying they're the Super Bowl favorites right now.
Right now they are.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wild.
You betting the over or the under on that?
I mean, if Vegas is telling me that they are the favorite to win right now, and they've been able to win, 11 games basically in their sleep, like I would have to say that I'm probably on the over. The however to that is, I think they need to make some pretty significant moves in the offseason, which you guys have alluded to multiple times. They need to bring in some people in spots. They need to be able to get pressure on the passer. They definitely need to beef up the back end of that defense, which was depleted this year, and they still need a wide receiver. So they need to make some moves. But if you're asking me today, just based off of all of the data and what's happening, and the fact that nothing much just seems to have changed in the coaching staff, I would say I would take the over on 11 wins.
Okay, love it.
Beautiful.
Well,
yeah. We're so back.
We're gonna call it. We're so back. We're so back. We say that every year. We're so back, and then we're devastated. My goodness. Let's just hope. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. Always fun. We're gonna have Tony on more shows in the future. Got some fun ones, fun types of shows planned that we think would be very entertaining for some folks. And obviously, he knows football. We'll probably have a show talking about the Super Bowl. We were going to talk about that a little bit, but just ran out of time. We'll probably have a pre-Super Bowl game, pre-Super Bowl show with Tony. Maybe even get Rick and Chris back.
Let's get the boys on.
Let's
get it.
Give us some prop bets and stuff like that. Some fun stuff other than the game. So thanks, Tony. Appreciate you, Jake. Always appreciate it. That red's been throwing me off, dude. I don't know why. It feels like there's a camera.
It's a new one.
Glitch. Like there's a camera glitch. And, and it is too like. It should be all blue. It feels. It's been throwing me off the whole show.
It's like a Superman cape. It looks like you need like the big S on your chest, and it'll complete.
That's right. I'm gonna do a JA on my chest. Actually,
there you go.
I just want to address this real quick too, by the way. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Tony's name is now Titans apologist. Usually went by 5'6" apologist. He is now a self-proclaimed Tennessee Titans fan who, by the way, they hired my third choice as our head coaching candidate, Brian Daboll, as their offensive coordinator. So congrats to you, Tone. I think you're going to do some great things this year. Cam Ward on the up and up, baby. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. I think they draft in the 4th or 5th spot this year in the draft. So young team, new coaching staff. What better time than to jump on when they're coming out of the bottom?
Amen, brother. They got the best all bald head coaching staff in football right now. I don't know if you look.
That's true.
This
is true.
Solid. Salah, Dable. Yeah, I mean it's good. It's pretty good.
All right, guys, let's get out of here. Thanks again, guys. Thanks everyone out in the chat. Please, again, if you're a member, just smash that like button. Take a second. It's free, and drop a nickel on that subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Everyone, have a good one. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.